Hi, it's Nicole Banks with Nicole's Business Notebook, where I am bringing together my business besties so that we can learn what we do, how we do it, and why we're better together. This week, I have Brian Bressler on the podcast. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming out.
Thank you for inviting me, Nicole. I appreciate it.
100%. All right. So, a young person in business, we're just going to start right there. You have recently come to the Valley. It's a brand new, sort of a opportunity for you. Where's your head at? What got you interested in doing what you're doing?
Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy journey so far. I just graduated from the University of Delaware and I got a awesome job with a company called Goosehead Insurance. So they're the people that brought me out here. They said, you got to move to the desert. I said, why not? I'll try it. And I'm really glad I did. It's some advice I give to a lot of my younger friends is, when you're done in your hometown, you graduate high school, college, whatever that next step looks like for you, you should move out. Go check out a new city, find a way to make a living. Doesn't have to be a job. It can be some sort of venture, but go explore just a little bit because you don't want to be that person that, stays in their hometown, never leaves, doesn't really know anything outside of it. There's so much more to see. So I'm really glad that I found the Valley, that I moved to Phoenix. It's been just an absolute blast. And it almost feels like there's a different energy out here from where I'm from in New Jersey, really small town. I loved where I grew up, but just the types of people here and the energy and the drive that you kind of pick up from all these events, and even just walking down the street in like Old Town Scottsdale, you see all the cars drive by and all that cool stuff. So it starts to like rub off on you a little, and you start to think, all right, like I could do that too.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. For me, DJ Barton has mentioned that he believes that Phoenix is like the mecca of entrepreneurship, and I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. And I think you're right. I grew up in a really small town. I had 250 in my graduating class and, all of that. And, I've moved around a lot and the whole bit. But I think that that space, that distance, and the self discovery that, moving brings, you don't have, your support system. You don't have your, buddies that you can call on a Friday night. You got to figure out something to do and figure out things, to that you want to put your time and effort and energy in. So I think moving is definitely a great way to move forward. So, you had the opportunity to move, with this business and, come into this market. Talking with you and, kind of the networking and stuff that we've done, you've kind of just blossomed, since, moving here and, seeing you over the last few months. So talk about that journey and, what's led you to now.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, kind of like what you mentioned, moving, getting out of your comfort zone, the people and your family, moving away from that puts you in an environment where you really get to test yourself. The first time I got to see who I really was when I was alone, when I had to figure everything out on my own, when there wasn't any guarantees in life. Like I just had to figure it out day by day, go through the motions and just see what works. And what I did very early on was I started going to a lot of networking events, which is where we met. And like, I think it was like my second week here.
Hmm.
We met at, I forget what event it was, but
One of them.
yeah, one of the many, many events
Yep.
in the East Valley. And I just kept meeting people, and the power of networking, the power of you meet someone, they introduce you to someone else, and you just capitalize on that opportunity, and you put your all into it, try to make an authentic connection. And when you lead with that type of mindset, it becomes very easy to navigate the area, find what works, who do I talk to, who do I not talk to. It's also very important.
Hmm. No names.
No,
No.
no, 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 never. But I just kept going, and it was like 2 or 3 networking events a week,
Hmm.
and at some point I just kind of turned around and I was like, what just happened over the past 2 months? Like
Yep.
we've done all this stuff, met all these people, got so involved in the community and different organizations. So it really kind of slingshotted me into the industry here. It got me very, immersed in the culture, and just, started exploring a lot of business opportunities. So after doing so much networking and getting to know the heads of all the networking groups and kind of how
Mhm.
they run their operations, I decided to take it upon myself to try and start my own.
Woo.
Why not? When you're, I think Dave Walter said it. He was like, when you're the new kid in town, the quickest way to make a bunch of friends is to throw the party. Or he
Yep.
said potty.
Yeah, potty.
But so that's what I did. I decided to have my first event, and it took a lot of marketing, a lot more than I thought it would. We were
Yeah.
doing handwritten letters, we were doing cold calls, visiting offices, social media, like any point of contact you could think of, I was
Yeah.
making. And we had, I don't even know, it was like over 60 signups for the first event. So, you played the numbers games. It was about a fourth of that actually came, 25. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even if like one person came, I would have been like, cool. Like,
Right.
that's awesome. It works.
Yeah.
But to have, that first event kick off that way and just get the feedback from everyone that was there, I started to think like, oh, I could do this every month and this could be like a reoccurring thing. And it kind of ties into my main job, which is, being an insurance broker, because I specialized in the home buying process. So creating a networking group that's niched down to the real estate industry allows them to go hand in hand, because I already kind of have some value, some expertise to provide to the group.
Right.
And I'm also looking to meet like-minded individuals in that industry.
Yeah.
And the good thing about having like a little bit more of a niche down group is it's a lot more, I would say, intentional. Like when you show up to the closing table, there's going to be a real estate professional that you can at least make a connection with. Maybe you build a relationship out of it that leads to business. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But when you show up to the event, the type of people you're going to meet. There's no like, oh, maybe I'll meet them, maybe I won't. Who knows?
Right.
But that was kind of the mindset we were going to. And we just kind of cultivated this group of people that are super authentic, lead with service, and are just looking to help each other in the ways they know. So it's been quite the journey.
That's great. I mean, kudos to you first off for having the gumption to say, you know what, I want to start a networking group. I have two. I know how much of a burden that they can be. Obviously, a blessing. But it's a lot of hard work. So first off, kudos for you for finding this opening, finding this real estate sort of way, and what I'll say is the closing table, sexy name, great job on there. And having it really be focused to the point where it supports that primary business. Some people network to network and to meet people and that whole bit, but you never know what they do. And I love that yours is with intention to help, obviously with your primary business, but help others in the industry. Obviously, well attended and, great, referrals have been created in this. So I think that that's wonderful that you took the step. So, that obviously was a big leap. And, you mentioned the hard work and, the diligence to get there and the whole bit. But why did you even start the closing table?
So I started it because kind of what I mentioned, being new in the area, I didn't have a lot of connections in the real estate space. And I was doing a lot of cold calls. I was doing the in-person visits, kind of like how I was marketing for the closing table. I was doing a lot of it, my main line of work. And I just found that when I was trying to connect with people, the easiest way to do it was at networking events. And when you break it down to the fundamentals, it makes so much sense. It's less intrusive. When you show up to a networking event, the people you're going to meet already had the intention of meeting someone to connect with. So it's a lot more natural of a process of getting to know them because you're both there for the same reasons.
Right.
Whereas, cold calls, they'll work and their in-person visits work, but there's just something about meeting someone in person at one of these events that makes it so much easier to connect. And, it's just simple common sense. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And the quicker you can get through those three phases of getting to know someone, the more business you're going to do with them and the more confident you're going to be when you're referring them out.
Right. No, I think that's a great point is, you know, as corny as it sounds, your network is your net worth. I heard that on DJ's podcast, so just stealing that to put here. But I think that sentiment that you shared is really on the nose. And when it comes to, insurance, it's not the most sexy, of, industry and, that whole bit. So, I think even more than in other industries, it's about them liking you and wanting to partner with you and sharing their life and what's going on with you. And so I think that know, like, and trust is even more because I mean, frankly, everybody knows an insurance person or 12, in the whole scheme of things. So I think, that focus there is a breath of fresh air. So, what made you want to get into insurance in the first place?
So I never really knew I wanted to necessarily get into insurance. There's kind of two facets to it. So the first one was I love the entrepreneurial esque kind of role that involved with Goosehead. So the company in itself gives you a lot of autonomy. I plan out my schedule. I map out my visits and my calls. I set up my meetings, all that cool stuff. They provide the structure that I need to succeed, but I have to go catch the fish myself.
Hmm.
So that was super intriguing to me, and I was always like kind of good at sales. I never really knew I wanted to do it full time for a career, but when I was a junior at the University of Delaware, I picked up a sales minor, and I found the classes there to be the most engaging. And I feel like I got the most real world kind of skill set value out of them, like negotiation, presenting. We did live sales and role play, stuff like that. That was just things that are hard to replicate in other majors and other programs. So going through the motions of that really got me hooked. I was like, okay, I think I could do this. And I also got my real estate license while I was a sophomore in college. So tying in, like I said, I'm kind of specialized in the home buying process,
Hmm.
taking the expertise I learned from being a realtor and the sales knowledge I got from school and kind of the entrepreneurial spirit that I've kind of always carried with me throughout my life. It just seemed like a no-brainer to get into the industry, and insurance was just kind of the vehicle that I was able to channel all these different aspects of my life to.
Yeah, I love that. I love the combined approach. You took what you took what you're good at, and then what you found that you're good at, and kind of melded them all together. So let's talk sales. Sales is something that's really passionate about me. What to you is the biggest sales tip that you could tell a new insurance agent?
That's a really good question. um, Man, I would say it's just it's confidence. Like when you're on the phone and you're talking to someone and you're kind of shaking and
Hmm.
maybe you don't sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like it it is so easy to hear it in your voice.
Yeah.
So easy, whether you realize it or not. So I'm not saying prepare and know everything before you talk to someone on the phone, but at least come prepared with some sort of plan
Hmm.
and be confident. Be confident in yourself. Be confident in the product you're selling and lead with service. Because when you do that, when you're genuine about your ability to serve someone, that's when making that sale becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, I think, that's a great point is, confidence matters. When you are trying to sell something and you don't feel confident, they're not going to feel confident. No matter all the features, no matter the whistles and all the great things about what you're trying to sell, it doesn't matter if you can't show that. I started my career at Amco Transmissions. And so I had the opportunity to learn sales from like 80s car guys. And, the biggest thing that I learned was the assumptive close, where basically, like, of course you're going to do this. And you make them tell you no. I mean, obviously, in today's standards, not the best sales process. But back then, it really kind of imbued that confidence in there. and outside sales and actually pounding the pavement and having those conversations. So, finding those opportunities to work the sales muscle, um, especially if you can do it in sort of low value environments where it's not going to, screw over the huge sales or those big opportunities while you're working through things, I think is important too. So, one thing I love about you is that you're so authentic. Every time that people talk with you, it's like there's nobody else in the room, no matter if there's 100, and you really focus on making that connection. And that's one thing that I see that you do really well. How did you learn that skill? I mean, obviously, yes, it's kind of sales wise, but it's not really. So, can you delve into that a little further?
Yeah, it's kind of the only way I know how. I don't want to be anyone else except myself. So when I go into one of these rooms where there's hundreds of people, it's okay. You don't have to meet all of them. I think a good rule of thumb is like 2 to 5 really genuine connections that you can walk away from that room feeling confident that you're going to be able to follow up with all of them
Mm-hmm.
and create some sort of meaningful relationship. It's not always the number of people you talk to, but I think quality over quantity type of thing. And when you're able to be super authentic, it rubs off on them, and you're kind of able to connect on a deeper level. So you don't always just kind of get into the motions of, oh, what do you do? Oh, I do this. And what do you do? And oh, this is what I do. Cool. Like, you know, there's a very powerful tool called pattern interruption. So, people expect you to say certain things at these networking events, but
Mm-hmm.
when you can approach them in kind of a different way, ask them, hey, what are you passionate about when you're not at these events and you're not at work? Like, what do you like to do for fun? Then they start to open up a little bit. And then now you're having a real conversation. You start to sound a little bit more human instead of like a company sales pitch every time you talk to someone. It can kind of be a breath of fresh air to some people. So I try to lead with that. And it honestly just makes it more fun. Like, I don't want to talk about my job all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I have a lot of other things going on that
Mm-hmm.
maybe I want to talk about. So I would encourage people to kind of explore maybe some other alternative routes to starting a conversation and holding one, trying to genuinely get to know someone, kind of lead with the what can I do for you, not so much approaching them as, okay, let me figure out what this person can do for me.
Right. Yeah, I think, exactly to that point, when we're going to these mixtures, there's hundreds of people. It can be overwhelming. And there's always those people that are the revolving business cards, trying to, deal the deck out before they go home. Nobody likes those people. And so I think it's a great reminder, 2 to 5 really focused, really intentional conversations can lead to so much more success from these events. Then just keep going to the events and do your 2 to 5 people next time and next time and next time. And there's so many different events going on, weekly, monthly, here in the valley that you're going to have those opportunities, but don't be the deal a deck guy.
It's a good way to put it.
No, 100%. So in this, insurance, is I mean, I'm just going to say, an old white guy's game. And coming in, you do not meet that criteria. So, how is it being a young person in your industry, dealing with, people who may be 2 or 3 times older than you, trying to help navigate things? I'm sure there's some funny stories there.
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, over the phone, it's hard to tell, what age I am. So you can kind of get away with that. But
Yeah.
when you're in person, in the office, sometimes it can feel a little bit intimidating. But you sometimes just have to fake it till you make it. Like, I'm the expert. I know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to let this guy convince me that I don't know what I'm talking about. Was it Grant Cardone's book, Sell or Be Sold?
Hmm.
It's the same thing. Like, you don't get sold on the idea that you don't know what you're talking about just because someone's older than you or you might think they're smarter than you. Like I said, be confident that you know what you're talking about, and people will be confident enough in you to maybe buy from you or maybe just be your friend. I don't know. So that's been kind of my mindset. And then the closing table ties into that a little bit because kind of like how I said no one really knew who I was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of first impressions are, okay, this guy's the host of this event.
Right.
Typically, when someone meets you for the first time, that's how they remember you for the rest of their life.
Right.
So that's why when I moved here, it was so hard to sell insurance to people from home, because
Mm.
a lot of the parents still saw me as this teenager
Yeah.
drinking
Their
with their
kid's
kids
friend.
in high
Yeah.
school, or this 7-year-old going to elementary school.
Yeah.
So that's just how they see me forever. But
Right.
out here, I kind of get to paint a new picture and redefine who I am and discover a different version of myself. So I'm very intentional about that every day, just trying to get 1% better, kind of learn something new about myself that gives me the confidence to approach these people that are probably smarter than me, maybe more qualified, but I am confident in my ability to serve in what I do. And that gives me all the reason to, just put one foot in front of the other and provide some insurance.
It's amazing. Yeah, I came here 4 years next month. And, I feel the same way. Getting out of, my hometown and getting away and getting into this new environment has really brought the best out of me. And, I think that, the Phoenix Valley is unique in that point where there's so many transplants, there's so many people coming in from, all around the world, that it kind of forces us to refocus and to be deliberate in the choices that we're making for ourselves, our businesses, our circles, our networks, and our growth. And so I think that's wonderful. So we've talked about the closing table. Let's get the details. What day of the month? Where is it at? I know I'm not sure if you're moving or same location. So let's get the details.
Yeah. So the closing table, we have a happy hour event on the third Monday of every month. Our next one will be on November 17th at Kala Scottsdale, 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. It's pretty consistent. That's what we've done since it has started. And we actually have some pretty big things in the pipeline coming up.
Ooh.
So we are launching a membership program for those who want to take it to another level, want to be a part of something a little bit bigger than themselves. And kind of what's provided in this program is access to exclusive events. You get added into a private group chat where even if you can't make the events, you can still engage in a community that's a little bit more tight knit. Referral programs. There's a lot of other amenities that come with it. If you're interested, let me know. And you're also going to get a free AI onboarding call with my AI specialist who can do a deep dive into your business model and see how you can integrate his systems into your business model. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. I'm really excited to roll it out starting, I think, next month. I think
Oh,
we're shooting for next
exciting.
month. So
Amazing.
really, really excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I love that it's one step further than networking. It's a community, and I think that entrepreneurship. Yes, there's one eye, but you're not going to be successful. You can't be an island. You really need to find your people, find your referral partners, which I think is great that you're pushing that through. So obviously, we've talked about your expertise and working with home buyers in the insurance space. Hopefully, people get inspired to reach out. How do they connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at brian.bressler, or you can give me a ring at 713-324-9196. And my email is brian.bressler@goosehead.com.
Amazing. I will say follow him on socials. He has some hilarious posts and different things that he's doing too. So he's actually making insurance fun. So I definitely recommend for a laugh to definitely follow him on socials. All right. So last question, Brian. If you were a genie and could bibbity boppity boop, where entrepreneurs could learn something from you overnight, what would you share?
That's a great question, Nicole. I would say over the past 4 months, I've learned from a lot of mentors that it's not about what you do that makes you successful. It's about the type of person you become. And a great example of this is when people win the lottery. So money operates on a frequency, and so do you, right?
Hmm.
So when your money shoots up to this $1 million frequency, you better become a millionaire.
Ah.
You better become a millionaire because that money's always going to fall back down to who you are as a person. So aligning yourself with the traits of a millionaire, the habits of a millionaire, the mindset of a millionaire is super key. Like you have to kind of almost like gaslight yourself into being a millionaire, that like truly believing it
Yeah.
and being on that wavelength, and then the money will always lag behind. So as long as you're working on yourself before you work on your business, you will find it probably pretty difficult to fail, in my opinion. And as long as you just don't stop doing something, at some point you will probably succeed.
That is great advice. I think that, mindset's important. Manifestation, whatever you believe, you put good in the world and good things happen. And I think that, that's a great, point is, be the person that you want to be, when it comes to, their network, when it comes to, their daily schedule, when it comes to their routine, when it comes to the people they're spending time with. I mean, you got to be the person that you want to be to become them. And I think that's really great advice.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Brian, for being on the show, for sharing all things insurance and Goosehead and closing table and being a young entrepreneur. I really enjoyed having you on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Nicole. I really appreciate it.
100%. All right. So, again, this is another episode of Nicole's Business Notebook where we're bringing together my business besties so that we can learn from each other, learn how to be better, and as Brian mentioned, to be the people that we want to be. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.